The applause started slowly. At exactly 11:47 a.m. on December 3rd, 1972, inside the Peninsula Hotel ballroom in Hong Kong, something happened that no one in attendance had ever witnessed before. Bruce Lee, the man who had faced death threats without flinching, who had defeated challengers without breaking a sweat, who had built an empire on absolute emotional control, lowered his head and covered his eyes with his hand. The press conference had been routine until that moment. Standard questions about Enter the Dragon. Predictable inquiries about Hollywood. The usual request for demonstrations and fight stories. Then a journalist from Singapore asked a question that changed everything. And for the first time in his public life, Bruce Lee could not hold back his tears. This is the story of that press conference. The question that broke through his armor. The emotion that surprised everyone who thought they knew him. And the standing ovation that lasted for 7 minutes and 32 seconds. This is the Bruce Lee the cameras almost never captured. Hong Kong, December 1972. Bruce Lee was at the absolute peak of his fame. The big boss had shattered box office records across Asia. Fist of Fury had surpassed it. Way of the Dragon had confirmed him as the biggest movie star the continent had ever produced. And Enter the Dragon was about to introduce him to the entire world. Warner Brothers had invested heavily in the film. It was the first major Hollywood-Hong Kong co-production, designed to make Bruce Lee an international superstar. The press tour was extensive, calculated, relentless. By December, Bruce had done over 40 interviews in 6 weeks. The same questions, the same answers, the same performances of charm and confidence and controlled charisma. He was exhausted. Those close to him noticed the strain. Linda, his wife, saw it in the quiet moments at home. His training partners saw it in the slight decrease of intensity during workouts. His closest friends saw it in the way his smile sometimes flickered before fully forming, as if the energy required to maintain it was being rationed. But to the public, to the press, to the cameras, Bruce Lee remained the image of supreme confidence. Unshakable, untouchable, beyond ordinary human weakness. The Peninsula Hotel press conference was scheduled for 11 a.m. A mid-sized event, perhaps 60 journalists from across Asia. Standard format. Bruce would make opening remarks, then field questions for 45 minutes. He arrived at 10:45, wearing a simple dark suit. No entourage, no handlers, just Bruce and Raymond Chow, his producer from Golden Harvest. The ballroom was already full. Cameras, lights, notepads, tape recorders, the machinery of celebrity. Bruce took his seat at the center table. He smiled. He was performing again, as he always performed, the mask of confidence firmly in place. The questions began. Mr. Lee, what can you tell us about Enter the Dragon? Bruce delivered his prepared response. International production, excellent cast, revolutionary action sequences. The usual. Mr. Lee, do you believe this film will succeed in America? Bruce expressed confidence, discussed the quality of the production, mentioned Warner Brothers' commitment. Professional, polished, perfect. Mr. Lee, we've heard rumors about tensions on set. Can you address those? Bruce deflected gracefully. Every production has challenges. The final product speaks for itself. Next question. This continued for 30 minutes. Routine, predictable, the well-rehearsed dance of press and celebrity. Then a hand rose in the third row. A woman, middle-aged. She identified herself as a journalist from Singapore, working for a Chinese-language newspaper. Mr. Lee, I have a different kind of question. May I? Bruce nodded. Of course. The woman stood. She was holding something. A piece of paper, yellowed and worn. Mr. Lee, I was researching your early career for a feature I'm writing. I found this. She held up the paper. From Bruce's position, he couldn't see what it was. This is from a San Francisco newspaper, dated 1964. It's a small article about a martial arts demonstration at a high school gymnasium. The instructor's name was listed as Bruce Lee. The article says only 14 people attended. The ballroom shifted slightly. This wasn't the usual question about films or fighting. The woman continued. I contacted the school. They had records. 13 students and one janitor who stayed to watch. That was your audience. 14 people in a gymnasium that held 300. She paused. Today, your films play to millions. You could fill any stadium in Asia. But in 1964, you stood in an empty gymnasium and demonstrated martial arts to 13 students and a janitor. She looked directly at Bruce. My question is this. When you stood in that gymnasium, talking to those 14 people, did you ever imagine this? Did you ever believe you would become what you have become? The ballroom went quiet. Bruce Lee didn't answer immediately. His expression shifted. The professional smile faded. Something else emerged beneath it. Something the journalist had never seen in any interview. Vulnerability. Subscribe and leave a comment. Because what happened next would stay with everyone in that room for the rest of their lives. Bruce cleared his throat. His voice, when he spoke, was different. Quieter. Less projected. More real. I remember that demonstration, he said. I remember it very clearly. He paused. Seemed to be deciding something. I had been in America for 5 years at that point. Teaching martial arts. Trying to find acting work. I had a wife, a young son. We were struggling financially. I was giving private lessons for whatever people could pay. Sometimes that was $5. Sometimes it was groceries. The journalists were motionless. This wasn't the Bruce Lee they knew from interviews. This was someone else. The gymnasium demonstration was arranged by a student's father. He thought more people would come. He had put up flyers, made phone calls. He was trying to help me build my reputation. Bruce's voice caught slightly. When I arrived that evening, I saw the empty seats. 300 chairs, 14 people. I could see the embarrassment on my student's father's face. He kept apologizing. He wanted to cancel. He thought it would be humiliating for me to perform for so few. Bruce looked down at the table. I told him something that night. I told him that if one person learned something valuable, it was worth doing. That numbers don't measure impact. That the quality of connection matters more than the quantity of audience. He paused again. But honestly, I was devastated. I went home that night, and I sat in my car outside our apartment for an hour before going inside. I didn't want Linda to see my face. I didn't want her to know how close I was to giving up. The ballroom was absolutely silent. Not a camera shutter. Not a whispered comment. 60 journalists holding their breath. Your question, Bruce continued, looking at the woman from Singapore, was whether I imagined this. Whether I believed I would become what I have become. He shook his head slowly. No, I didn't believe it. That night in San Francisco, sitting in my car, I didn't believe any of this was possible. I believed I had made a mistake coming to America. I believed I would never achieve my dreams. I believed I was failing my family. His voice thickened. What kept me going was not belief. It was not certainty. It was something smaller than that. It was just the decision to try one more day, to teach one more class, to knock on one more door, to stand in one more empty gymnasium and give everything I had to 14 people, because that's all I knew how to do. Bruce looked up. His eyes were glistening. Every success I have now, every film, every audience, every moment like this one, I receive as a gift. Because I know how close I came to quitting. How many nights I sat in that car, wondering if any of it was worth it. A single tear escaped and traveled down his cheek. He didn't wipe it away. 13 students and a janitor. That was my audience in 1964, and I gave them everything. Not because I believed it would lead here, because it was all I had to give. He looked directly at the journalist from Singapore. Thank you for asking that question. Thank you for reminding me where I started. And thank you to those 14 people, wherever they are now, who gave me a reason to keep going when I had almost none. For 3 full seconds, nothing happened. Then someone in the back of the room began to clap. A single pair of hands. Then another joined. Then another. And then the entire ballroom erupted. 60 journalists rose to their feet. The applause was thunderous. Not the polite, professional applause of a press conference. Something deeper. Something genuine. Something human recognizing human. Bruce Lee lowered his head. He covered his eyes with his hand. His shoulders trembled slightly. The applause continued. 1 minute. 2 minutes. 3. The journalists kept standing. Kept clapping. Some were wiping their own eyes. They had come expecting the movie star, the martial arts icon, the image of superhuman control. They had received the man instead. For minutes. 5. Raymond Chow, sitting beside Bruce, placed a hand on his shoulder. He had known Bruce for years, worked with him through triumphs and challenges. He had never seen him like this. 6 minutes. Bruce raised his head. His eyes were red. His face was wet. He made no attempt to hide it. He looked out at the standing audience, the journalists who had become something else in this moment, witnesses to something true. 7 minutes. The applause finally began to fade. People lowered their hands, returned to their seats. But the energy in the room had transformed completely. The rest of the press conference was different. The questions were softer, more personal, more curious about the man rather than the image. Someone asked about his children. Bruce spoke about his son Brandon with visible love, his voice still carrying the rawness of what had happened. Someone asked about his philosophy. Bruce talked about water, about adaptation, about the courage to keep moving when the path disappears. Someone asked what advice he would give to someone struggling, someone in their own empty gymnasium, someone wondering if their dreams were possible. Bruce thought for a long moment. I would tell them that the gymnasium doesn't have to be full for the demonstration to matter. I would tell them that the 14 people in front of you deserve everything you have, just as much as 14,000 would. I would tell them that success is not about the destination. It's about the willingness to continue when every reasonable voice says stop. He paused, and I would tell them to be kind to themselves, to forgive themselves for the nights in the car, for the moments of doubt, for the tears they don't want anyone to see. Those moments don't make you weak. They make you human. And being human is not a flaw. It's the whole point. The press conference ended at 12:52 p.m. As journalists filed out, many stopped to shake Bruce's hand. Not the brisk, professional handshakes of the industry. Something more personal, more meaningful. Several told him that they would never forget what they had witnessed. One elderly journalist, a man who had covered entertainment in Hong Kong for 30 years, told Bruce that he had seen hundreds of press conferences, thousands of celebrities. This, the old man said, was the first time I ever saw truth. Share and subscribe, because some moments deserve to be remembered exactly as they happened. The footage from that press conference was never officially released. Golden Harvest and Warner Brothers were concerned about the image. Bruce Lee crying at a press conference, just months before Enter the Dragon was supposed to establish him as an international action star. It didn't fit the narrative they were building. The official photographs from that day show Bruce smiling, confident, composed. The usual image, the expected performance. But the journalists who were there told the story. They wrote about it in their features, described it to their colleagues, remembered it for decades. The woman from Singapore, the one who asked the question, continued her career in journalism for another 25 years. She interviewed presidents, prime ministers, celebrities of every magnitude. At her retirement dinner in 1997, someone asked her what her most memorable moment in journalism had been. She didn't hesitate. December 3rd, 1972, Peninsula Hotel Ballroom, the day Bruce Lee cried. She described the moment in detail. The question, the silence. The answer that came from somewhere deeper than performance. The tears that the greatest martial artist in the world made no attempt to hide. He showed us, she said, that strength includes vulnerability. That confidence includes doubt. That every hero is also a human being who once sat in a car wondering if any of it was worth it. She paused. I've seen politicians lie beautifully. I've seen celebrities perform perfectly. But I've only once seen someone tell the truth at their own expense. And I've never forgotten it. The 14 people who attended that gymnasium demonstration in San Francisco in 1964 went on with their lives. Most of them probably never knew what Bruce Lee became. The janitor who stayed to watch has never been identified. But somewhere, in the foundation of everything Bruce Lee achieved, their presence mattered. They gave him a reason to continue when he had almost none. They were the audience when there was no audience. They were the proof that showing up counts, even when showing up seems pointless. 13 students and a janitor. and a young martial artist who chose to give them everything, not because he believed it would lead somewhere, but because it was all he knew how to do. That choice, repeated across thousands of empty gymnasiums, small dojos, private lessons, and quiet moments of persistence, eventually became Enter the Dragon, became international stardom, became a legacy that would inspire millions. But it started with 14 people and the decision not to quit. Bruce Lee died 7 months after that press conference. July 20th, 1973. He was 32 years old. Enter the Dragon was released 6 days after his death. It became the highest-grossing martial arts film in history. It made him an immortal icon. But the people who were in that ballroom on December 3rd, 1972, remember something different. They remember the moment when the icon became a person, when the legend revealed the struggle, when the man who seemed invincible showed them that he had once been as lost, as doubtful, as close to quitting as anyone else, and that what separated him from the people who did quit was not talent, not destiny, not some special quality that ordinary people lack. It was just the decision to try one more day, to stand in one more empty gymnasium, to give everything to 14 people because that's all there was to give. The applause that day lasted 7 minutes and 32 seconds. But its echo has lasted 50 years. Because somewhere right now, someone is sitting in their own car outside their own apartment, wondering if any of it is worth it. Someone is looking at their own empty gymnasium and feeling the weight of disappointment. Someone is close to quitting, close to deciding that their dreams are impossible. And if that someone can hear this story, can understand that Bruce Lee sat in that same car, felt that same weight, faced that same moment of despair, maybe they will make the same decision he did. One more day, one more try, one more demonstration for whoever shows up, even if it's only 14 people. That's the legacy, not the films, not the fighting, not the fame, the decision to continue. December 3rd, 1972. Peninsula Hotel Ballroom. Hong Kong. 60 journalists. One question. 7 minutes of applause. And one man, finally allowing the world to see what it cost to become who he was. Some people are remembered for what they achieved. Bruce Lee, in that moment, deserves to be remembered for what he survived. The empty gymnasiums, the years of struggle, the nights in the car, and the 14 people who never knew they saved him.